Hello everyone, my name's Alice. I'm 7 years old. Today, I will read a book, The Bossy Pig. The Bossy Pig. We will have a picnic on Saturday. Mrs. Pig told her friends, "You must come." Mrs. Pig made a list. "I want a table and 6 chairs," said Mrs. Pig. "I want some juice and some plates." She was a very bossy pig. "I can bring a blanket," said Mrs. Sheep. "A blanket is not on my list," said Mrs. Pig. "You bring a table." "All right," said Mrs. Sheep. Mrs. Pig looked at her list. "You bring six chairs," she told Mrs. Goat. "All right," said Mrs. Goat. "I can bring some milk," said Mrs. Cow. "Milk is not on my list," said Mrs. Pig. "You bring some juice." She was such a bossy pig. Mrs. Pig looked at her list again. "We need plates," she told Mr. Horse. "I will bring plates," said Mr. Horse. "I know what I can bring," said Mrs. Owl. "Don't bring anything," said Mrs. Pig. "We have anything we need, but I know something else we need," said Mrs. Owl. All the animals come to the picnic. They play game. Mrs. Cow flew the kite. "Stop playing," said Mrs. Pig. "Put the table under that big tree," said Mrs. Pig to Mrs. Sheep. "Set up the chairs," said Mrs. Pig to Mrs. Goat. "Set the table," she told Mrs. Cow and Mr. Horse. Mrs. Pig looked at her list one last time. "That is," she said. "Now, please sit down." "Where is the food?" asked Mrs. Goat. "The food?" asked Mrs. Pig. "Oh dear, I forgot the food." Mrs. Owl smiled. "You forgot the food," she said. "But I did." "You are a wissy owl," said the Bossy Pig. "Now let's eat." Thank you for listening to me. Goodbye, everyone. Bye. See you next time. Goodbye.